Your Excellencies, distinguished participants and friends, Halal Geta and greetings from the Regional Office for the Pacific of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. I'm delighted to share a few remarks at today's policy event convened by Vanuatu Pride, together with stakeholders and partners in Port Vila. The opening words of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights are unequivocal. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Equality and non-discrimination, two of the fundamental principles underpinning international human rights law, also guide the protection of people of diverse sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. This does not require the creation of new rights. Rather, it requires enforcement of universally applicable guarantees in the enjoyment of all existing rights. We are pleased that your event builds on the United Nations Free and Equal campaign, which is aimed at extending the same rights to members of the Soji community as those to be enjoyed by everyone else. Launched in 2013 and led by our office, the UN Free and Equal campaign is an unprecedented global public information campaign aimed at promoting equal rights and fair treatment. In 2015, the United Nations in the Pacific marked a step towards the protection of human rights of people with sexually diverse backgrounds with the launch of its own regional campaign. This initiative was a joint effort. A number of organizations, including governments, human rights institutions, human rights activists, the UN and other stakeholders from across the Pacific attended this event, and they shared their perspectives of the situation of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex people, and called for action against homophobia and transphobia. Vanuatu has taken some positive steps towards recognition and protection, including through an acceptance of recommendations at its most recent third Universal Periodic Review by the Human Rights Council. It has indicated support of rights of LGBTI persons and through limited anti-discrimination legislation. These steps provide a basis for Vanuatu to continue to improve the human rights of members of the Soji community. While the Constitution provides for equal rights under the law for all persons, discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex characteristics could, however, be more specifically addressed. UN member states reviewing Vanuatu at the Universal Periodic Review recommended amending legislation to incorporate fully the principles of gender equality and the prohibition of discrimination based on gender, covering direct and indirect discrimination in both the public and the private spheres. The UPR also recommended implementing other specific measures to combat all forms of discrimination, including discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. The UN High Commissioner has suggested the development and implementation of national action plans for human rights based on the implementation of the UPR recommendations in close consultation with all stakeholders, in particular civil society organizations, and, where necessary, with the support of international organizations. Such an action plan would greatly facilitate the preparations for Vanuatu's fourth cycle of the UPR, and it could also include measures taken to enhance the human rights of the Soji community in practice. There's much more work to do also when it comes to equal treatment. Discrimination and violence against LGBTI persons persist in the Pacific as well as in Vanuatu, with harassment, discrimination and criminal acts possibly going unreported. Greater recognition of acceptance of members of the Soji community in Vanuatu also means that this is a positive development, but there are cultural, economic and social hurdles to be faced in eradicating discrimination and stigma, as well as hate speech. Addressing inequality, discrimination and social exclusion will also be a prerequisite for progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. We must all work towards achieving these and leaving no one behind. The UN High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet has stated that with strong solidarity, we can build a world that is more resilient, sustainable, just and fair. This could be our reality. We see today's policy event as part of joint efforts towards the protection and promotion of human rights for all members of the Soji community in Vanuatu, and we congratulate Vanuatu Pride for this initiative. As the regional OHCHR Office for the Pacific, we also stand ready to support you and other national and regional alliances and networks to advance the protection and promotion of human rights for the Soji community nationally, regionally and globally. And it is in this spirit that we wish you all fruitful discussions and look forward to hearing about the outcome of your deliberations. Dank jo tunas. Thank you very much.